What's poppin', y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Tee It Up. I am your host, Pierre, Pee Wee the Plug, Andresen, and today we have another action-packed episode for y'all. Before we get into the episode, though, I did want to take some time out and send a lot of love to all of our viewers and our listeners out there. We have had the Spotify Wrapped showing everybody's, time that they watch the show and watch different shows, and we had quite a few people with us like as their number one watch show or number one listen to show. And I wanted to take time out to just send so much love to y'all because I appreciate being in the top 5 or the top half of your list or whatnot. But for y'all that were in the 0.01 percentage of listeners, the top, the ones that spent thousands of minutes with us and had us number one, we truly appreciate that here at Tee It Up. And I wanted to take time out to thank y'all for that. In today's episode, we got a lot to talk about. We obviously got our one-man weave going around the league and talking about everything that we got going on there. We have some college basketball talk at the end of the show with producer Christian, diving into some of the draft stuff. And then we also are going to talk about some teams that are thriving right now, who are on fire, and some teams that have kind of hit the struggle. First, we want to start off with one-man weave, though, one of my favorite segments that we have added to the show. The first thing we want to talk about around the NBA is Jonathon Kuminga. Jonathon Kuminga, Sunday, I believe it was, got a DNP coach's decision against the Chicago Bulls and a win that the Golden State Warriors had. And it just sparked a lot of those emotions over again. And this feels like something that is getting a bit exhausting. And I'm bringing it up because I'm hoping that the Golden State Warriors, Mike Dunleavy, Steve Kerr, Jonathon Kuminga and his representation, I hope we get some closure here soon. The Warriors have been one of the most frustrating teams for me to watch. One of my most disappointing teams, not even from a wins-loss perspective. Obviously, they could be doing more there. But just on a night-in-night basis, you just don't know what you're getting, right? Like if Steph Curry, which we know, he's the best player. He's their franchise guy. And he's been the best thing that happened to this franchise in the history of their existence. But I just thought with the investment that they gave to Jimmy Butler contractually, you still have Draymond Green. And, from a team perspective, it felt like coming into the season, there would be enough that they could lean on without Steph Curry. And a part of that was featuring Jonathon Kuminga, kind of getting on one accord and figuring out their relationship. And we saw early in the season, they had some really strong wins where Steph was able to chill, able to coast a bit. And there were times in the season where you needed Steph to be Steph, and he delivered those moments and was able to get some really, really incredible wins there too. But now I'm at a point where, like, I'll turn on a Warriors game or I'll get ready to tune in, and they'll have some guys in the lineup. And then one day there's no Draymond, there's no Jimmy, there's no Steph. And obviously right now Steph is obviously dealing with an injury or whatnot. But even before the injury, you didn't know what Warriors team you were going to get. And even sometimes in the last few games Steph played, it's still relatively the same thing where, Steph may have one of those performances. And during those performances, it's like, you know, vintage Steph almost, and they still found a way to lose games. And I don't know. I think a part of this is the Jonathon Kuminga saga, though, and I'm really, really tired of it. Really ready for the closure of it, and I can only imagine what Golden State Warrior fans feel and how exhausted they are. And shout out to Jonathon Kuminga. He was asked about it post game, and he gave a really professional interview. Excuse me. Don't know how many Warrior fans are going to buy into it because it's not just a Steve Kerr and Golden State Warriors thing as well, right? It's like Jonathon Kuminga has also gotten back into those old habits that frustrated the Warriors brass and Steve Kerr to not play him and have him in the lineup or whatnot. And so when you got Steve Kerr willing to send a message and give him a DNP, when you have Jonathon Kuminga kind of having an attitude of not really caring and not having that same type of focus and level of play that we saw at the start of the season, it's like, what are you going to do? And the bad thing about it is I think the Warriors have kind of hurt themselves by waiting so long. I don't really know a crazy way to trade Jonathon Kuminga. The Warriors are going to want something back. That's why they re-signed him. That's why we didn't have a move during the offseason, because there was really no trade that the Warriors saw fit, and so they decided to keep him. And now, if he's getting DNPs, how do you sell him to another team? The reason the beginning of the season was so exciting for me and for what I would imagine Warrior fans was because it seemed like the relationship was getting fixed. And even if it wasn't, Jonathon Kuminga was playing some really good, inspiring basketball that you could see another team being willing to buy into at the trade mark or the trade deadline. And now, if he's getting DNPs and the team is able to win games with him getting DNPs, I just don't see what would make a team invest over the mark for him, where the Warriors feel good about the return. And so I don't know what the Warriors are going to do. There's been so much talk about, wanting to put the proper team around Steph Curry for the last few years of his career because he deserves it. And I find myself thinking that the Warriors are right back at square one. And I'm sitting on the couch next to a guy in D Mills every episode of Numbers on the Board who's constantly reminding me how bad the Jimmy Butler contract looks at this point. So the Warriors are in a bit of a mess, and every time I see the Jonathon Kuminga situation, it kind of just get worse and worse. Kuminga went into Sunday night's game shooting just 8 of 32 from the field in his last 3 games, including a 1 for 10 shooting performance against the Cleveland Cavaliers the other night. So again, it's a two-way thing, two-sided thing. And even the other night, Steve Kerr basically said that he wanted to go with the other guys instead of Kuminga because he felt that they fit around Jimmy Butler, who was, returning to the starting lineup. And I think that's been the story of Jonathon Kuminga's tenure, is not his talent level, but his ability to fit into what they want to do around Steph, Dre, and everybody else that they got going on. Some other news around the league is Terry Rozier pleads guilty. And now we have to wait and see if the Heat will file a grievance, right? There is speculation that the Heat feel a certain way about acquiring Terry Rozier without knowing all of this was going on. And so there's a world where they file a grievance and try to maybe get their pick back and see if there's something that could happen there because they felt they should have been in the know about everything that was going on with Terry Rozier before acquiring him. Very tricky situation to be into. I don't know where I fall there because obviously there's a world where they are made aware of the investigation and that Miami Heat tend to say, we don't want to do the trade then. And so the trade doesn't get done, but then there's a world where the investigation comes back and nothing was done wrong. And now a potential trade was off the table because of something that didn't even materialize into something. So I kind of see both sides, right? I see the Heat saying, hindsight, y'all let us acquire a guy who now we can't have, and we are not sure if we can trade his contract and everything like that. But then the NBA and the Hornets are going to say, well, if he came back clean after the investigation, we would have missed out on a trade that everybody was kind of in favor for. So yeah, I'm interested in this because I want to see the Miami Heat make some type of move, and if Terry Rozier is making $26.5 million, that's a hefty enough contract to add some things to maybe make a big splash for a team that has been exciting to me for the most part during the season. And then one of the last things I want to touch on is the Franz Wagner injury, the high ankle sprain. We're going to miss Franz for about 2 to 4 weeks. He was injured against my New York Knicks going for a lob. They do have Paolo back. They are 11-21 without Franz over the last few seasons. So this is something I'm monitoring. A tough situation right now for the Orlando Magic. You lose Paolo. You were able to kind of get back on track and sustain a certain level of play that you have wanted and anticipated having at the beginning of the year, and to finally get back on track and be able to get Paolo back on a minutes restriction. Felt like things are on the up and up, and now you lose Franz, and you're going to be asking Paolo, fresh off of his injury, to kind of shoulder a lot of that responsibility and to keep this team on track. And because they had the poor start, you don't want to see them kind of lose the footing that they just made, lose the ground that they just kind of caught back up with. And we know the last couple of years, the injury bug has been a really, really big hit for the Orlando Magic. And also, let's show some love to our guy, Derik Queen. Last night had a hell of a performance, one of 3 big men to have a triple-double before turning 21. He joins Chris Webber and Wemby. And so now you got Derik Queen, who had a incredible performance last night against the San Antonio Spurs, a game that I was wishing the Pelicans could have pulled out. But yeah, shout out to our guy, Derik Queen, friend of the show, always showing love to him, young fella cooking and killing. We will be back after our break with some hot teams and some disappointing teams around the league. Now I want to talk about some teams that have kind of been, doing a thing, streaking, on fire, whatever it is we want to call it. I want to start with the Minnesota Timberwolves. They are an interesting team right now, in my opinion. They have won 5 of the last 6 games. They were on a bit of a streak there before they lost last night to the Phoenix Suns. And the reason Minnesota is interesting because they have some key elements and the structure in their team that I still believe in and can see having some playoff success. This is a team that just came off of 2 Western Conference Finals appearances. But obviously, with the new look of the Western Conference, it feels like they've taken a hit and taken a step back to a certain degree when you talk about contending teams now with OKC still killing the NBA with the emergence of the Houston Rockets after they went out and got Kevin Durant, the Denver Nuggets. It's tough to figure out exactly where the Minnesota Timberwolves fit in all of that. Even the Los Angeles Lakers now with a full year of Luka and LeBron and Reeves. But I still, on a night-in, night basis, feel like they have the makeup of a strong playoff team. The one thing that I will say, though, is the point guard position is something that they're missing. That's been the topic of conversation. I'm very interested to see what direction they will go there. I think last week we did a question for every single team in the NBA, and my question for the Minnesota Timberwolves was, do they want a point guard bad enough that they're willing to part ways with Naz Reid, a guy who's been a big figure on this team, an undrafted product that they were able to find, develop, and become ultimately a 6 man of the year candidate almost consistently now, and just an impactful player that they've gotten great performances from and means a lot to their locker room. Right, it's him, Jaden McDaniels, Anthony Edwards. They have this fun core group of guys who've kind of been through it all with each other. And I know he would be a hard guy to trade, but they were going to have to give up something of value to bring in somebody. I've seen articles where guys like Ja Morant is mocked up to the Timberwolves. I've seen James Harden and a few other guys. Timberwolves fans say that they would rather keep Naz Reid and maybe go a cheaper route to find somebody or ride it out with Anthony Edwards. And I think the last 5 wins out of the last 6 games speaks volumes to the potential that they could maybe figure this thing out without the prototypical point guard they're looking for, right? Allowing Anthony Edwards to kind of rock out. He's been on a scoring tear. You get the 3-point shooting from Dante DiVincenzo, secondary ball handling and playmaking from Julius Randle. And I mean, Bones Highland has come alive over the last few games and whatnot. And they're 7th offensively, 11th defensively. So this is a team that almost has a top 10 defense and top 10 offense. It is always a recipe for success. You got to give them a lot of credit with how they're able to defend the paint. They don't allow teams to really shoot efficiently from the 2. And a lot of that obviously goes to Rudy. I still think he's an all defensive NBA caliber player still to this day. Maybe not the defensive player of the year that he once was, but he still anchors this defense and gives them something sustainable on a night-in-night basis. And Anthony Edwards has been incredible. He's been on a scoring tear. Some of the last couple of wins that they had, he kind of was just going through the game and going with the flow of the game and didn't really need to do too much. But prior to that, he was going 40, 36, 40 here. Last night, 2 nights ago, they lost to the Phoenix Suns, and he even had 40 in that game. And so I still see something here. They're just a team that before the 5-game winning streak, I think they went on like a 3-game losing streak. So they kind of hit her. They're almost like the Western Conference version of the Raptors, where during the season so far, the first quarter, you've seen these stretches of almost brilliance, but then you'll see a stretch of downplay, which brings you back to square one. Like, who exactly is this team? I wanted to give them some credit, wanted to show them some love. I felt like the Timberwolves aren't a team that we've talked about a lot, right? Because of that, almost different team on different night occasion. But there's still something here for me that makes me feel confident in them as a playoff group. And it's having Anthony Edwards as your star and his ability to make things happen in the half-court offense. It's Rudy on the defensive side, anchoring your defense and giving you a solid foundation there that allows you to be able to get stops, especially timely stops. It's some of the depth, right? Still having a Naz Reid, coming off the bench, being able to shoot the basketball. Not the same depth from last year, but still quality enough. Having a guy like Bones Highland, a Jalen Clarks of the world, being able to contribute to a certain degree. And it's been up and down a little bit for Jaden McDaniels, right? He started off the season on point from an offensive perspective. He kind of had a slump or a step back, and now he's trying to get back to that level. And even Julius Randle started off the year incredibly, one of the best isolation players for a big portion of the earlier season. So there are some things here, and I want to give them credit. Wanted to take some time out to acknowledge the streak that they had there and the brand of basketball they've been playing. But I'm very curious to see if there's another level they can get to, and if they're going to ride it out with this group of guys, or if they will try to make some type of move for some type of new energy at the point guard position. Most of this segment, I wanted to really talk about one team and one team only, which is the Boston Celtics. This team has been phenomenal to watch. They are on a 5-game winning streak themselves. This is a team that I talked highly about all summer long, even after the Jason Tatum injury. This is a team that I couldn't really see taking that much of a fall. They just have too much integrity. They have too much foundation. I thought Jaylen Brown was still a really, really good player. He's playing better than I even anticipated. I felt like Derek White was going to step up into a new space and a new light as a guy going from a more complimentary role to a high feature role. He definitely had his struggles to begin the year. It feels like now his shooting is starting to come back around, and it makes sense that when his shooting starts to flip back to the original state, everything is kind of going good with the Boston Celtics. And Jaylen Brown is playing at an all-NBA level, arguably a top 5 MVP type level as well, the way he's just killing. I mean, we can talk about it. He has 13 games this season with 30 or more points. He's averaging 30, 8, and 7 in the last 5 games. He's had 3 40-point games already. He had 42 points against my Knicks. And as of late, they have really improved their shooting just as an overall team. Peyton Pritchard, Anthony Simons has explosive games. We know what Sam Hauser about. Jordan Walsh has given his team, to me, a new jolt of energy and new youthful energy. I mean, the Celtics are 10-2 with Jordan Walsh as a starter. And I believe part of that is the leadership of Jaylen Brown. I believe that Jordan Walsh came out and said that Jaylen Brown spoke on his behalf to Mazzulla and the coaching staff to see and to be able to get Jordan Walsh some opportunities. And since the opportunity has come, Jordan Walsh has not let Jaylen Brown or the Boston Celtics down. I mean, as a starter, again, he's shooting 62% from the field, 45% from 3, 84% from the free throw line. He's giving you 9 points a game, almost 2 offensive rebounds a night, and he's giving you defensive activity, which is what his calling card has been since he's gotten to the public stage of high school stardom, college stardom, and now NBA. I mean, he's giving you almost a block and a steal a night, switchable, versatile, willing to pick up 94 feet. He'll guard a big. He can box out, active on the glass. He's been a really good gift for them. And the question I now turn to when I say all of those things is Tatum coming back this season. Is Tatum coming back? Should he come back? And if he does, just how good could this team be? I personally look at the Eastern Conference as a vulnerable conference right now. I'm obviously rooting for my Knicks and hoping we can, make things happen. I wouldn't mind going out and finding a way to get Giannis Antetokounmpo if that was possible, obviously. But when you look at us, you look at the Cavaliers, you even look at the hot teams like the Atlanta Hawks. You look at the Raptors, who have kind of started to struggle a bit too. You look at the Magic getting things together. There's not a real threat or a real team out there that you feel like is just unbeatable. Even with the Detroit Pistons and the way that they've started the year, if you're the Boston Celtics and you're playing this well without Tatum, and there's a scenario where Tatum can rejoin his team at the end of the season before the playoffs start, use, 9 to 10 games to knock off some rust, to try to get his rhythm, to get reacclimated with a brand new team. Because the last time Tatum played with this team, you still had Porzingis and Drew Holiday and all of these different pieces. And if they are able to get Jason Tatum back, I do think that this team isn't that far away. They have some pieces that they could trade. They've been rumored to talk about moving Anthony Simons all year long. Again, I've loved some of the games and performances he's been able to give them off of the bench. He fits Mazzulla ball, shooting a bunch of threes and, pull-up shooting. But if you have Tatum coming back and there's a move that you can do to get a big man, right, which is the next step for them, Zubac, Nick Claxton, and one of those guys, I think we got to start putting the Boston Celtics back into our frame of mind. We've gotten comfortable getting away from them, and it's Cavs, Pistons, Knicks. But, this team is making a case for Jason Tatum to return. and it's worth watching. That's it though. Next, we'll talk about the teams that are struggling around the NBA after this break. Now it's time to show some love to our sponsors over at DraftKings. Y'all know the deal. Pick six, very, very simple. Pick two or more players for your pick set and go to any statistical category you want and go more or less. More or less. Very, very simple. Last week, I got to do a little bit of a victory lap because your boy did not miss at all. I went 3 of 3. We did have 4 picks. Jalen Johnson did not play for the Atlanta Hawks. That's okay. We void that and move on. But we did go 3 for 3. Julian Champagnie, 10.5 points against the Orlando Magic. We took the more and we hit that. He ended up with 14 points out there for the San Antonio Spurs. I also decided to be a little biased, went and showed some love to my guy Deuce McBride. He had been shooting the ball at a ridiculous level from 3, and I wanted to ride that momentum and wave over into this game. And at 12.5, he hit against the Miami Heat for 15 points, which was another more. And then the Khalil Ware for the Miami Heat against the Dallas Mavericks, we took the more there as well. With the way he's been rebounding the basketball, he had 10 rebounds, and he hit that one pretty easily. So again, 3 of 3. Your boy cooking. I gotta talk my stuff and pop it a little bit, just because I've had some weeks where I've did the exact opposite. So show me some love when I'm hitting like this. You know what I'm saying? So for this week, we have more picks. We have another 4. I will say the games for Wednesday night, we only have 2 games. It's a cup night. Bit of a slower week as far as the games go. But we do have some interesting choices. We have the Los Angeles Lakers, and we're going to take the Andre Ayton and his rebounds. We're going to go more here, where we've seen some big rebounding nights from DeAndre Ayton. He's playing some of the best basketball, arguably, of his career. The Lakers are thriving right now as a basketball team and a unit, and they should have Luka Doncic and the whole gang back. And when these guys are fully healthy as a collective, and there, because Luka missed a couple games with the birth of his daughter, they're hitting on all cylinders. So give me DeAndre Ayton more for his rebounds. Next, speaking of Luka, we want to take Luka's points, and we want the more there as well. This has been a guy who's been arguably a walking 40-point game for every game of the season. And again, one of my MVP candidates right now. I think he's like 3rd or 4th on my MVP ladder board. A cup game, we know how it is. This is highest stakes on the line to go down there in Vegas, and I think the Lakers are going to come out, get that dub, and Luka's going to lead the charge. Like I mentioned, another baby, another step in fatherhood for Luka, and we have this thing we talk about on Numbers on the Board. When guys have babies, they tend to go to another level. So we're gonna ride that mentality and that way of thinking with Luka and hope that he can smash the more for us right there with the points. On the other side of things, the Oklahoma City Thunder, we're going to take more for Chet's points. Now, I'm not 100% sure the status of Shea, right? Missed the last game. Lou Dort has also missed some time over the last few games and whatnot. This opens up the door and the opportunity for Chet Holmgren to really, spread his wings and become even more of a scorer. Now, there is a world where Shea does rejoin the team because it's not a crazy injury. And I still chose to go with Chet because even if Shea is there or not, this is a real gettable amount of points for Chet. But it opens up the door a lot more if they decide to continue to rest Shea and not bring him out there, banged up or whatnot. And then last but not least, we're staying out there with the Oklahoma City Thunder, and we're taking J-Dubs more for his assists. J-Dub, since he's gotten back, has been killing it with the assists. He's averaging almost like 6.5 assists per game. He's had 8 assist games, 7 assists, 6 here, 6 there. So I'm loving what he's been able to do. And again, same thing I said with Chet. If this is a game where we will not see Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, that means more time on the basketball for J-Dub. That means more offensive opportunity and whatnot. And if he is, the man with the basketball, then I expect this, just like Chet points, to be an easy hit for the more. So stay tuned with us. Again, pick 6, really simple. We got a lot of mores. And I'm telling y'all now, if I go perfect again from the field, y'all gonna hear me say some crazy stuff on next week's episode. But as always, we appreciate y'all. Back to the show. For those of you who haven't checked out DraftKings Pick 6 yet, there's an exclusive offer waiting for you. Right now, new DraftKings customers can play 5 and get $50 in bonus picks. All you have to do is download the Pick Six app and use promo code ENJOY when you sign up. Pick Six is available in most states, including Texas, California, and Missouri. So don't be afraid to get in on action. Now we got to switch gears. We talked about teams that were thriving, teams that are, streaking and getting things together. We got to go to the opposite end of it. We got to talk about some teams that are kind of struggling right now, trying to potentially pivot and pick up these pieces, or maybe figure out what's the next step for them, organizational, in the next direction or whatnot. I want to start off with the Toronto Raptors, a team that was on like a 9-game winning streak a couple weeks ago, thriving, killing it, showing a lot of great energy. They are now in a 3-game losing streak. They have not looked like themselves. They've lost 5 of the last 6. And right now they are dealing with a lot. The first thing that I think is evident with the Raptors, and, Coach Darko even mentioned it and talked about it recently, was they had that part of their schedule where they played a lot of games in a little time. And I think every team in the NBA is going to have that hump in the schedule where it feels like you play 5 games in 7 days, or sometimes even like 6 games in 7 nights. It gets real crazy, real hectic for a few of these teams. And they've ran into that. And the fatigue showed, whether from an individual standpoint or a team standpoint, where the communication, the effort, a lot of it just wasn't there in some of these losses. I mean, they have lost twice in almost a week and a half or 2 weeks to the Charlotte Hornets. In one of these games, they had 86 points against the Charlotte Hornets. A lot of that says loudly, fatigue, fatigue, fatigue. Unfortunately for them, the fatigue is something that they can't use as an excuse, because they have to make sure that they stay in position to be able to be a playoff team. A lot of teams are figuring out. You got the Atlanta Hawks playing a lot of good basketball, as we mentioned prior to the Franz Wagner injury that he faced against the Knicks. The Magic were starting to get things together there. You already have the Knicks, the Pistons, the Celtics are hot now. As the Raptors, you don't want a lot of that early work that you did in the season to now become irrelevant and revert back to a team that looks like they're going to be a play-in or maybe miss the playoffs. It's important for them to stay on top of the early success that they had. And in the midst of some of those issues that we mentioned, RJ Barrett, there's a difference in this team without RJ Barrett. They're 3-5 without him so far. He just recently got some knee injections, which means he'll be reevaluated another week, which to me means he won't be back for a couple of weeks. And if they're below 500 without him, they're going to have to quickly figure some things out. But his cutting, his, ability to create some shots for himself and knock down some shots, and just his scoring prowess overall has definitely been missing a lot from this team through the last 6 games or whatnot, as they've gone on this 3-game losing streak. They got a big cup game Tuesday night tonight, which by the time you guys see this, we'll see the result of that. If I had any say, I would probably go the Knicks, just by the way that the Knicks are playing versus the way that the Raptors have looked over the last 3 games. To me, this team is probably still at a point where they're going to have to figure out some type of move to make. I like what the Raptors have done. I enjoy their roster. I want to see RJ Barrett back as soon as possible. But to me, they still lack a bunch of size, right? Jakob Poeltl, who has been in and out of the lineup, and certain games haven't looked like this self. He's still only, like 6'10", 6'11". They've had nights where they've started CMB as a 6'7" center. Mamu has played, and I think he's only around 6'9". So I would love to see this team try to address the need of more size. I also think some of the guard play can be a little bit in question. They don't have the typical type of floor organizer necessarily. Jamal Shead is like this 3-and-D, ferocious defending point guard. Emmanuel Quickly, I think in theory, is a guard that meshes well off of Brandon Ingram and Scotty Barnes with his elite 3-point shooting, his pull-up shooting, shooting off the catch. He fits with those guys being your jumbo playmakers and complementing them to a certain degree. But I would love to see this team have some type of floor organizer or floor general to come off the bench and kind of slow things down, get them organized with different second unit groups and whatnot. But ultimately, 23rd ranked defense during the last 3 games, 25th ranked offense over the last 3 games with this losing streak. Just not the typical Raptors team that we grew accustomed to seeing at the beginning of the season. I was falling in love with this team, the way that they were playing, getting up and down, a lot of fast break points, limiting opponents' fast break points. Even those things have dropped. They're not really scoring at the same rate in the fast break. Those points have dropped significantly. And again, some of the performances you've seen from Brandon Ingram and Scotty Barnes signals fatigue. And I just want to see them regroup, whether that's making a move. This morning, Shams dropped an article, and Anthony Davis was a big highlight of that article, talking about teams that were interested in potentially pursuing him at the deadline if he were to be made available. And the Raptors were one of the few teams that was on that list. I don't know if that's the route for them. I'm not against it. I'm not for it. It's interesting to me. But I love the fact that they are involved in some of these names that are going to be made potentially available in the next coming weeks as we get to that December 13th mark or 15th mark that allows a big portion of the league to now be available for trade. So we'll see what direction they go. They've also been linked to the Ja Morants of the world, the LaMelo Balls. We talked about the guard play. It's all about what they want to give up, what they want to look at as the big hole for the lack of success here over the last week or so. And hopefully they can get this thing back on track. They're doing bad, but they're not doing as bad as the home team, the Chicago Bulls, who are now 2-8 in their last 10. They've had 7 straight losses for the first time since the 2019-2020 season under Jim Boylan. During this streak, only 2 of their opponents have had winning records, which was the Orlando Magic and the Golden State Warriors. And in both of those games, significant players were missing for both sides, right? They lost Sunday in a game that didn't have Draymond or Steph Curry. And then the Magic game that they lost, they didn't have Paolo Banchero. 3-13 in the last 16 games. And the first thing you have to talk about with the Bulls and their struggles is the defense is just non-existent. I'm going to read off some teams that they've played during this little span, and I'm going to name the amount of points that they've given up to some of these teams. They've given up 120 points in 14 of those 16 games that they're 3-13 in, including 120 points to the Pacers, who they lost twice to, right? This is a Pacers team that was at the bottom of the Eastern Conference who beat the Chicago Bulls twice. They gave up 113 points to a Brooklyn Nets team, another team that has been at the bottom of the Eastern Conference for most of, if not all of, the season. They gave up 123 points to the Warriors with no Steph or Draymond. And on top of that, they gave up 143 points to the New Orleans Pelicans, who have had a very, very tough season, as we know. So, again, this Bulls team was not the best defensive team at the start of the season when they went on that, 5-0 start or 6-1 start. This team is not a team that we looked at to be, laying their hat on the defensive side of the basketball. But to see them like this against these teams after such an incredible start, after being rejuvenated and full of energy, has been disappointed. And it makes me kind of wonder, what is the next step for the Bulls? I sit, again, next to 2 Bulls fans, and I was wondering, as Bull fans, what do you even look forward to? This is a team that has told you that they want to win, they want to compete, they want to do things the right way. They're not going to tank or whatnot, and we've seen that because they've been in the play-in, and they've tried to get in the play-in over the last few years or whatnot, and they've kind of had the same type of redundant outcome year in and year out. They're good enough to fake getting the playoffs or give themselves a chance, which makes them positioned to have a draft pick that's going to be further away from the top 5 territory. And it's just the same cycle. And now we are here at a time where the locker room, from all reports, is just not there. Nikola Vucevic seems checked out defensively and offensively. The juice that Josh Giddey had, it's still there from a numbers perspective, but it isn't jumping off the screen like it was in those first 5 games. Kobe White is back in his last 5 games. He's shooting 20% from 3. Modest Buzelis, who a lot of Bulls fans was hoping was going to have this MIP type of jump in year, he's still showing flashes and showing growth and having great moments as a young player, but he still hasn't put it all together. And then on top of that, your most recent lottery pick is out for the entire year, and even before his injury, Billy Donovan wasn't playing him too many minutes. You extended the front office, you extended Billy Donovan, so no changes are coming there. A lot of the trade value that you potentially could have had in Vucevic and some other guys are probably non-existent at this point. And again, it just leads me to know what is next for the Bulls. Where's the hope? are they just going to can another season after all of that hype and fun to start the year? And their fans are just supposed to hope that they lose every game now in order to have some top pick. And then it's like, what if it happens the Bulls way, where you don't have as much success, but you don't get a top 5 pick still? You end up at 6 or 7 again, and you get a solid player, but nobody to change the franchise. And yeah, I don't know. But speaking of draft, after this break, producer Christian will join me, and we'll talk about some of the draft prospects as next. Now joining me, my guy, friend of the show, producer Christian. Christian, we have done a lot of like end of the show, outro, college basketball talk. I wanted to bring the block in today, and this was exciting for you as well, to talk about some of these draft prospects. I feel like everybody has talked about them a lot. We haven't really dove in. It's kind of been more of a broad NCAA talk. But thoughts on some of these guys? How have you been feeling them? We'll go back and forth. I'm going to start with Nate Ament out of Tennessee, our guy, Jacob Myers from League Him. This is a guy that he is really fond of and loves. What are your early season thoughts? We do want to preface and let everybody know there's a ton of basketball left, right? Prospects can make up so much ground in 1 month of March or in conference play or whatnot. So, this is just what we've seen thus far.
Haven't been super impressed. And, of course, he's 18. He's only 10 games into his freshman year. I don't want to overreact, but it definitely gives me shades of like a Cody Williams type, a guy where it's like on paper, you see all these attributes. There's a lot to be excited about, and I think Nate's definitely been better than Cody was. But how are you shooting 42% on twos as like a 6'10" freak on like a really good team? Like in the last couple games, they've lost 3 in a row. By the way, in a loss to Syracuse, he shot 2 of 10 from the field and had 7 turnovers. And against Illinois, he shot 4 of 14 from the field and had 2 turnovers. And he has like 2 dunks on the year. So I want to see him be more. He's been willing to shoot the ball. He's been letting it fly from 3, 29% on 3. But it looks good. I want him to keep shooting that. But a lot of season left. But I want him to be more productive. I want him to take care of the ball better. And Tennessee needs him to be a legit 16-point-a-game guy against good teams for them to reach their ceiling.
I'm right with you. The first thing that pops out to me with Nate is definitely the physicality, because he does have the frame and the size that you would want to see be able to take advantage and not be so 3-point reliant and jump shot reliant. Like you said, only 2 dunks on the year. Are those fast break dunks? Are those half court dunks? Do we know?
One of the 2 dunks I know for a fact was like kind of this like drop in the half court. Like he didn't even throw it down. So I don't even know. I forget what the other one was, but one for sure was like kind of a fake dunk.
Yeah, and so when you talk about the physicality, it makes you so much of a jump shooter, which obviously anybody that is keeping up his shooting numbers have not been there. You already said low 40% on the 2-pointers. He's shooting like below 30% from 3 right now. Just a tough time, and I think some of that is the adjustment to the physicality. What I do love for Nate is that you have a lot of basketball left. They are on a 3-game losing streak, so they need him, and he's going to continue to give a lot of responsibility. I remember Rick Barnes and even his teammates spoke out about like, we're looking at Nate to, help us. What he does is needed here, and they've allowed him to kind of do his thing in these first games and his first stretch of the season. And I think now that, the opportunity is there and will continue to be there, he just got to kind of step up. It's really simple. You just making shots. Sometimes you'll have freshmen not in a rhythm, maybe not in the starting lineup. Maybe the team is thriving without their success, and so the coach, doesn't lean on them as much. They're not closing out games and this and that and the third. But for Nate to be in this type of situation, I do believe that there is some upside here, and I'd much rather a guy struggle and catch on late than to start out of the gate killing the competition, those easier games, and then once conference play comes, they kind of fold up, and now we really don't know who this player is. So if he does get it together, it will be against the supreme competition during conference play. But
one other note on him, Pierre. Guess how many blocks he has this season?
Don't tell me 0. He should at least have 3 blocks.
He's got 1.
He's got 1?
One block in 10 games.
Yeah, we gotta get some block. And that Syracuse game, 7 turnovers, that was a very, very bad loss for a Tennessee team that should have easily been able to beat a really good, solid Syracuse team that's taken me by surprise, but I still think that Tennessee is supposed to really take care of them. The next guy I want to talk about is Caleb Wilson. Caleb Wilson, UNC, has been the talk of the town, I feel like, in NCAA circles, right? We know the big three. Everybody's talked about them a bunch, but right outside of them, everybody has kind of been Caleb Wilson crazy. Early thoughts on him and what you've seen and what you've enjoyed or want to see more of?
Another 6'10", super lengthy guy, but Caleb Wilson has a crazy high motor. Like
It's
that's
kind
the
of the
thing that
exact
jumps out to
opposite.
him. Exactly.
Yeah.
The motor is so impressive. The hustle, in that second game of the year against Kansas, he was diving on the floor, pumping the crowd up. Had 24 points, 7 boards, and 4 assists. He's thrown down the most dunks in the country. You talk about being the opposite of Ament, but still some more refining to do. Of course, he's only made 2 threes on the year, 2-pointers. He takes some tougher fadeaways and stuff, but I'll give him credit that he hits them, and you see the enticing upside with him. But I love his motor. I love what he does on the glass. Defensively, there's such a high ceiling with him. He's a guy that I'm more I don't need to give this modifier every time, but I know it's early. He's just the type of guy that I want to bet on because I love that motor. You see enough skill along with the tremendous natural ability of just his athleticism and length. And I just think he's going to keep getting better. He's shooting 77% from the free throw line too, which makes you optimistic about the shot making. And he's made difficult shots on these twos as well.
How does the 3-point shooting make you feel as far as the next level? Like, how do you project him? We know he has a bunch of upside. He's still young. He does make a lot of tough mid-range jump shots, which, can easily stretch out to 3-point shots. But is that a factor for you? You talk about, loving his energy, his upside, his motor. But how would you project him to play at the next level that is, looked at where a lot of guys' position needs to be able to space the floor a little bit, right? Because he'll probably play next to a center who isn't spacing the floor. And do you think he can still be effective, or would that scare you away?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to be super confident when he's 2 for 11 from deep on the year, but I like the way it looks, and he's still so young.
If you were the Nets, and the Nets picked in his frame, let's just say the top 3 is the top 3. The Nets have the 4th overall pick. You have Claxton in your front court. Off the bench is Darryn Sharp. You have Jaeger Dimon.
What if he's next to Danny Wolf though? Like that could be a fun.
The way that Danny Wolf defends, I don't know if he's can be, but I mean, there could be something there of some bench units. But yeah, would that be a problem with you, or who is somebody or some type of player or the mold that you could see him having success without the proper 3-point shot in today's game?
I'm fact checking myself real quick, but
because I say that with saying I still like Caleb Wilson, but I think when you talk about not being a center in today's game, a lot of guys are able to knock down that 3-point shot just a little bit.
I don't know if this comp fully makes sense, but body-wise and progression-wise, it makes a little sense to me. Evan Mobley hit 12 threes in college, in his 1 year in college. So I see him, and look what he's doing now. I think Caleb Wilson could, although, maybe not the same type of defender.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's kind of what I see from him. Evan Mobley was not a guy really looking to shoot a 3. Mm-hmm. Maybe take 1 or 2 in a game.
And just figures it out as he goes.
Yeah, and he's the type of, he was a great, and that didn't stop him from going second because of all the other great things about him, and then the progression came.
And then for Caleb, he doesn't have the size, but he has the athletic upside. He sees the floor well, defensive upside. So yeah, I could see that. I like that as far as offensive standpoint. What about Mikel Brown out of Louisville? I feel like he doesn't get talked about enough, in my opinion.
He was getting a lot of hype this summer. Fell down a bit, but I mean Louisville's really good. They're the 4th best offense in the country, and Brown hasn't even shot it well yet. He's shooting 26% from 3, but that's so fake to me in the sense of we know how elite of a shooter he is.
He takes a bunch too.
He takes a bunch, and that's what Pat Kelsey wants him to do. Mm-hmm. Just get up, double digit. He went 2 for 13 in the loss at Arkansas, 0 for 4 in a win against Indiana, but he's going to have one of these games where he hits 7 or 8 threes real soon. He's just a really fun point guard, the way that he sees the floor, the pace he plays with. He has great size as a lead guard at 6'5", and I've been impressed with him around the rim. He's shooting 58% on 2s. That's partly due to Louisville just having a great system of offensive spacing.
So many guards, yeah.
Yeah, so I think he's really fun. I think he's gonna have some nuclear games here coming up, but surprising to see him only shooting 26% from deep to start the year.
Hey, me and Christian chop it up about the prospects. We have a few to get to wrap up the show. Stay tuned. Now to wrap up the show, we have the big three to talk about with producer Christian. If you don't know what the big three is, that is Darryn Peterson, Cam Boozer, and AJ Dybantsa. Christian, I want you to let us know your personal order for these three as of right now, because it's definitely, again, something that could change. And I don't think that there's a wrong answer. I hate when we have these discussions and people are like, what? How could you have him at 2? He's not 3. You know what I mean? We're talking about the best of the class. What is your particular order? Walk us through that.
I'm not gonna lie, I think there is a correct answer for number one. I think Darryn Peterson's definitely number one. 2 and 3 is really personal preference at this point, and I think I've recently flipped from AJ to Boozer.
Why is Peterson the clear-cut number one right answer for you?
I was thinking about this earlier today.
And do you think it could change if he does not play the rest of the season?
The one tiny knock on him, I guess, would be the health, the availability. But he played against Mizzou. He looked great. Didn't turn the ball over once. Just super efficient. The thing I was gonna say is if you were creating like a my player, a big 6'6" lead guard, the way that he plays and approaches the game, he's not like a transcendent athlete like an Ant Edwards, but all of that development that Ant kind of went through early on his NBA career, just the 3-point shot, the processing, the footwork, DP he's already there. And defensively, he's so disruptive. He's so smart. He's just like, there's never a single like head scratch with him. Like with AJ, you'll get a few head scratchers. Boozer, you will be a little bit like, does the bully ball, does the athleticism, will that translate?
Yeah.
But with Peterson, it's just like, I really don't have a single knock on him as a basketball player and him as a person, his character that I've seen so far. Like it's like all of the hype is deserved.
And then what ultimately made you switch Boozer and AJ?
Boozer, I mean, I think this is going to have a lot to do with the team that's picking and how they fit. Like I remember you mentioned a couple episodes ago that AJ in Brooklyn or something like that, just a place where you're really banking on his upside to become this like 26 point per game kind of scorer.
Yeah.
And I totally believe in him to be able to do that. But he just has a few moments where I'm like, I don't love the 3-point shot. Just like I don't know if it's his lower body part of it. It just seems a little bit that he's thinking about it a lot. And then defensively, there's some few head scratching moments, but just him in transition. He's a good passer. The way he can, post up basically any guard or wing in college and get to his spot. He's so amazing at all those things. There's just a few moments, like I said, defensively or at the 3-point shot where I get the doubt. With Boozer, the way that he and John Shire and whoever else on that staff has just kind of mind melded, like they're putting him in such great positions to be a superstar.
They did the same thing with Cooper Flag, man. Duke is becoming like, if you are a top prospect, just based off how they orchestrate the team, back-to-back years with these top guys, I mean, like it's almost like they're building an NBA team. They get their guy, these star prospects and star high school talents, and then they like go around and recruit out of the portal and out of the high school ranks to bring in like great complementary pieces, and then they put these star players in position to do the things that NBA teams want to see. It's like a no-brainer at this point that if you're a top 5 player in high school basketball who has the aspirations of being a one-and-done talent, you should take your ass to Duke. And I hate to say that because I'm not the biggest Duke guy anymore. When I was a kid, like JJ Redick days. But my gosh, I like, there's something to be said about a program and a coach that is winning, but also allowing the player to benefit so that they could get where they want to go. I love that combination.
100%. And that's, well, real quick, actually, I'm the exact opposite of you with Duke. I was anti-Duke forever, but Shire has like made me be forced as a fan of basketball. I didn't feel this way before. Now I'm like, I just really love to watch them play. And the way that he's surrounded by shooters, the way that, a guy like Isaiah Evans goes there, super highly touted, plays his role, gets a lot better. Now you see him kind of blossoming, like same with Gongba. But against Michigan, to go on the road at Michigan State and make the adjustments they did to. Sam Vicini made a video about this, kind of clear out the shooters, like let Boozer work with the entire side of the floor to operate, or letting him work out of the middle and spray to either side. Like his processing, his counters to everything, it's just undeniable to me that Boozer, I feel like, has an answer no matter what. And now he's hitting pull-up threes in transition. Like,
yeah. I go back and forth. I'm with you. I got Peterson at 1. I like what Boozer does. I feel like AJ will be one of those guys that looks better in the NBA. So I still got him 2 for now. As always, though, everybody at home, stay locked in to Tee It Up. We will have more of this type of basketball talk every single week. We'll see y'all in the next episode. We out, baby. Peace.